Good afternoon and welcome to Legacy After the Locker Room. I'm your host, Kayla Bradham, here today with the one and the only, getting ready to get in the ring, Mike Dempsey. Good
Uh,
afternoon, Mike.
how you doing today?
I
Happy
am awesome.
Saturday.
I'm honestly just so happy to see you again. The last time I saw you at the Super Bowl, doing so much good work down there, and I want to hear some of the things you were doing down there. But before we do, I want to say welcome, and I want to thank you for being on the show. Mike, I'm going to start off right away with how you became interested in, you just have your hands everywhere, from the NFL alumni to Major League Baseball and the Yankees to an upcoming fight with George Clooney in the ring. How did you get
George
started?
Clooney, by the way, George Clooney's an actor. I don't think I want to fight George Clooney. I want to fight Jerry Clooney. But George Clooney wants to get in the ring with me. Hey, I'll be glad to raise the money and fight George. But he's a good-looking guy. I don't know if I want to mess up his face. He's a pretty good guy. So Jerry,
Jerry, thank you.
good. But I'm teasing you.
Right. I'll
But
take it.
I'll start by saying I grew up. I mean, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Although I live in North Carolina, the Brooklyn accent is very hard to hide. I've been down here 15 years, and I can try to say y'all. I don't say it very good. I do like sweet tea. I do like this Chick-fil-A place where I get my spicy chicken. But other than and sweet tea, all that stuff's good. But I'm Brooklyn. I love my pizza. There's things about Brooklyn. I said earlier about being authentic. I'm authentic New Yorker. So, but I grew up loving baseball. Was my dream, honestly. Football I didn't discover to high school, but baseball, Little League baseball in Prospect Park in Brooklyn. I grew up playing in this Little League group called the Beverly Boys Club, and I just love baseball, the Yankees, that 1977-78 era, and the fact that I'm friends with all these guys from that team is always like, sometimes I wake up and say, how the heck did that happen? But, I grew up as a big fan. Ron Guidry, who's one of my good friends, and Reggie Jackson, all those cool teams. Billy Martin, friends with his widow Jill, and just cool things. That was my era. The late '70s, growing up in Brooklyn, and Mayor Koch was there. I have such great memories, and that was really what drove me into sports, was through that. And I was always a football fan, kind of. Unfortunately, a Jet fan. Joe Namath preceded me, of course, and I love Joe, and I do a lot of stuff with his foundation. But yeah, I missed out on that 1969. I was born 2 years later, so I missed out on that. But I did follow the Steelers back in their heyday when they beat the Cowboys in the late '70s, and Terry Bradshaw, who I always tease, he was one. Franco Harris, who I do a lot of stuff with. Done a lot of stuff with the Steelers, but I'm also, like I said, being in New York, you got to pick a team, right? It's the Giants and the Jets. I was a Jet guy, and we had some rough years. Richard Todd. I mean, we had some great players, and Wesley Walker's a friend of mine, and a lot of cool guys from that era. Mark Gastineau, Joe Klecko, but we just didn't do that well. But you got to support your hometown team. You're right out in Chicago, right? So you had I'm sure you're a Bears fan. Jim McMahon's my dude. Or you're not. Oh, you're.
No. I actually live in Milwaukee. I am a Packers fan.
Oh boy.
Ooh, the Bears.
But Jim McMahon did play for the Packers one season, so you got to give him. And my other friend, Steve Mongo McMichael, although he was a diehard Bears player from '82 to '90, I think he finished his career with the Packers, and that's like kind of going from the Yankees to the Red Sox, like my friend Johnny Damon did, or Red Sox to the Yankees, like him and Wade Boggs. So it's interesting, but yeah, sports team loyalties, you grow up with them, and they never die. I'm always going to root. I may never see a Super Bowl with the Jets. I've given up on it, but I'm still going to support them and as much as I can. But back to how I got involved, and in high school, of course, football came along, and that was a big thing in my high school in Brooklyn. I went to Midwood High School. We had a great football program. As you've probably seen on my social media, like my football teammates are still lifelong friends, and we travel together on vacations. I don't have as much with the college football guys, but the high school guys, we're always connected. We had such great memories, and I was fortunate to when I came out of high school, I tried out at Boston University. Their program died in 1997, I believe. But at that time, there was a coach named Chris Palmer, who you might have heard of, who coached the Cleveland Browns. About 10 years later, he coached all over the league. I think he stopped coaching about 4 or 5 years ago, but he recruited me. And, as a walk-on, you don't realize that when you're a kid, walk-on means if you don't make the team, you get cut, you don't get a scholarship. So I tore ligaments in camp, and let's just say I was cut pretty right after my 18th birthday. It was kind of like one of those kind of things. If I'd signed that thing and maybe a few days earlier, I might have had him for the scholarship money, but that was expensive school. I think that was like $20,000 a year for poor kid from Brooklyn. And, that was a pretty bitter pill to swallow. My first disappointment athletically, but then got to go home for a semester and went back to Albany, Division III State University School. Got to have a great time playing with guys up there in SUNY Albany. And fortunately, at the end of that, since I transferred, you lose credits when you transfer schools. And that's the game where you transfer school. And what happens is the new school doesn't accept your credits. Although I came from an accredited school, I guess they felt their business program was better than mine, whatever. So I get stuck up there in summer '93 to try to graduate on time. Well, I wasn't graduating on time. My class graduated ahead of me in May of '93. But I was fortunate because the Albany Firebirds, arena football, I never really knew much about arena football, indoor league. It was at the Knickerbocker Arena indoors on turf. And I didn't play on turf really at all. I played on grass. And was fortunate that a kicker named Chris Drennan, he was a former Nebraska kicker, was kicking some field goals one day out there. And I'm like, who's this guy? And I got introduced to Sylvester Bunbury, a few people for the team. And before you know it, I got an opportunity to play with the Albany Firebirds. And I was excited. I'm like, I'm a professional player. It just came out of left field, this opportunity. And, when opportunities happen in life, you got to go for it. And I was fortunate to had that opportunity. Rick Buffington, I believe, was the coach there. I mean, I don't think we had a great squad. I think we might have been like 500 team at best. But 3 weeks into it, this is how most football injuries happen. Besides the concussions that I had, I'll talk about that later. I had an ACL full, non-contact injury during drills, and I heard two pops, not one pop, two pops. That was the ACL and the meniscus. Completely. That was my first devastating injury. And, at that time, maybe now you see Thomas Davis just retired from the Panthers this past Thursday, and TD, he had incredible career, 3 ACL surgeries, recovered, but they had a lot better doctors than they had for guys like me back in 1993. So that recovery was rough. I was like, what do I do now? Now the dream is gone. Not sure what I want to do. I graduated a liberal arts degree. I didn't really have any idea what I was going to do. I think sociology. I don't even know what a sociologist even is. So it was like, what's my next? So sports was it for me. So I was kind of thinking, and I did a little bit of boxing, which I wasn't that good at. I mean, I boxed in 1992 in Troy, New York, and I got to say, I embarrassed the Dempsey name. I had 4 fights. I won 1, lost 3. 1, I got disqualified for spitting out my mouthpiece because I couldn't get any air. So referee, it was Adirondack Golden Gloves, and they were like embarrassing, So let's just say that the boxing career, that's why doing this now is a way to redeem my good name, because Jack Dempsey was somewhere up there saying, this guy, man, just embarrassed the Dempsey name in boxing. So I had to really kind of do something now to get that name back. But yeah, no, when that happened, I was like, I'm still determined. And when you get knocked down, you got to get back up again. So rehabbed, and I was like, I'm going to get my dream. In 1995, ended up, I tried some crazy thing because I was a professional wrestling. I was living now in Tampa, Florida, and that's where all the professional wrestlers live. And the Hart family, they're up in Calgary. And I met a guy named George Wells. He was a former CFL player. I think he played in the NFL. I have to look up his, but he wrestled for the WWF, I think in the mid 80s, maybe like a middle card guy. But George had a connection up in Calgary and said, look, here's an opportunity. And, the thing I learned later is to play in the CFL, if you're a guy like me that's getting a tryout, you have to have residency established there. And I don't know what address it was, but let's just say by the time I got up there, it was kind of like, kind of fudged some information that came back to that part. But I did get to be up there for a couple of days, and there was a guy named Dwayne Johnson, who you might have heard of. He's this guy who wrestled as The Rock, and he's now trying to bring the CFL in XFL, and the coach was this guy named Wally Buono, and I think my defensive coordinator Frank Spaziani. I don't hear The Rock talk about Frank because Frank was tough, but he lasted Dwayne longer than me. But that team was pretty cool. Now you get Doug Flutie, who I'm still good friends with. Doug and I known each other and privileged to say for God, like met him first time there, 26 plus years. I just had some time with him down in Florida at the Johnny Damon golf outing, and Jeff Garcia, who great guy as well. I mean, that team was a Grey Cup winner, and what was I doing up there? But let's just say that ended very prematurely. Got back down to Florida, Tampa, went to One Buck Place, and tried to see if I can get a tryout with the Buccaneers. And I got to look. Sam Weiss was the coach there. I wish I had the experience of Tony Dungy or Herm Edwards, but that came later. Although those guys said if I had been there, they would have cut me anyway. So every time I see Herm, I'm like, Herm, you would have had me on your, because I would have cut you. He goes, you're Mike, sorry. But yeah, that lasted brief time as well, because I got an injury settlement. I couldn't pass a physical. So, when you have a ACL tear, like it takes a while to get back to the point when you're a professional football player, you can cut and do the things that a linebacker can do. So the NFL dreams had pretty much died, and I started, thankfully, I was down in Florida and got connected to a Wall Street firm called Solomon Brothers, popularized in this Michael Lewis book called Liar's Poker, and I was doing mortgage-backed securities and doing all this stuff, learning it, and I got that opportunity. So the failure in sports led to an opportunity on the business side to really reinvent myself. Is what you got to do, is take those opportunities and make them into something. So I wouldn't have had that experience if I hadn't been down in Florida. So go figure. I'm not in Wall Street. I'm in Tampa, Florida as a New York guy, and that got me a job there. So relocate back to New York in 4 years later, because Solomon Brothers was merged with Smith Barney, another firm, and then Citigroup came in and brought us all back to New York. Hey, that was great for me. I got a relocation package back up to New York. Left a year later, joined a firm called Credit Suisse. I'm working in the World Trade Center. So you know where I'm going with this story. So September 11th, 2001, working at 5 World Trade Center. That's when, obviously, we were hit and didn't know, back then, the old World Trade Center, it was 7 buildings. So I wasn't in the tower. People always say, what tower were you in? I was in 5 World Trade Center, connected to 1. So all 7 buildings were connected. So that impact on the first tower, felt it as just as in 5 World Trade Center. We're on the top floor, 9-story building. And I think, as this is something somebody could look up for me, but I believe the engine of the first plane landed in 5 World Trade Center, because as you know, our 5 World Trade Center was destroyed by the fires as well. But at that time, not having TVs or seeing what you might have seen on back in 2001, it was like a very scary, you hear it, and I look out the window and people are running away from our building thinking a bomb or something happened. So that was where that all kind of went evacuated pretty quickly. The funny story, I always say you got to take a funny story with a tragic event to kind of help you go talk about it. But the night before, the Yankees were playing the Red Sox. This is how sports really connects with things like this. Roger Clemens, my buddy, was going for his 20th win as a Yankee pitcher that season. Big day, September 10th, 2001. And go look at the coincidence. It's a 2.5-hour rain delay. That never happens. When you have a rain delay or rain out, it happens. Usually umpires call it. They look at the clouds. They look at the weather. Game called off. That game was supposed to start like maybe 7 o'clock. I don't remember the exact start time, but didn't get called off like 9:30. Remember being there with my wife at the game and just waiting for it to go on. I never seen Roger pitch, and still never got that experience with friends. I still never saw him pitch in the game. It was a bummer, but that game, we were rained out and took the train back to Penn Station in New York, and missed the train going back to Long Island where we were living at the time. And that coincidence, or just the next morning I was up early for work, but my wife missed her train and she was late. She was on the 8:06 train. She worked for Marsh McLennan. Marsh McLennan was one of the tenants of One World Trade Center from 93 to 100. You know their story. They lost all their employees. So think about the coincidences that happen in life. But with me, I just had a cell phone I'm still not very tech savvy, but back then I just got in a phone. I had no connection. Think about when we know why there was no connection because of what was happening at the time with the radios and everything. But I was trying to reach her to let her know where I was, evacuated, went to One World Trade Center lobby thinking she was there. She did benefit seminars for new employees at the World Trade Center. So I didn't know where she was. She could have been Midtown location or could have been downtown. Usually on Tuesdays, she was at the World Trade Center. It just happened on that morning she wasn't. So I went in One World Trade Center lobby looking for her, couldn't find her. Then by the glass was blown out in the lobby. This is where I said something doesn't look right because I didn't know a plane hit or remember during the time that's going on, you can't look up, you can't look at TVs, you can't look at, so you're just in crisis mode, not knowing. And I heard when I was going through the courtyard from 5 World Trade Center to 1 World Trade Center, I heard, things landing, crashing, which I thought could have been debris or something, but I know there was people that were jumping. Like I didn't know you're not looking up to see the horror that's above me. But by the time I got into One World Trade Center, asking the security guard, I need to get to my wife. He's like, that's not happening. And the fire department guys, as you've seen in the movies, accounts, they had just got there around 9 o'clock in the morning would be my recollection account of it. Got out by the World Trade Center mall, went back into the mall area to get out by 2 World Trade Center. Actually would have been a smart move if you think about it, given everything was on the 1 World Trade Center side, to go on the opposite end and come out that part safe, right? So I remember passing a record store called Sam Goody. That's when we used to buy records back in the old days. And I remember seeing the Sam Goody going through that exit on Liberty Street in Greenwich. By the time I got outside, the second plane was barreling into right above me, right over this Bankers Trust building on 130 Liberty. And I didn't have time to react and got knocked out. And knocked out for a guy with all the concussions I had in playing football, meant knocked out. Like I woke up, I was found in City Hall Park. And if anybody knows New York City, City Hall Park and where the World Trade Center was about 3 good blocks. So somebody carried a 6'3", 230-pound guy. That I was trampled, and I fell face forward, so I had marks on my back. I remember beside the fractured skull, I had internal bleeding. That was the stuff in the hospital. I tell people that was more lingering. That the skull was nothing, the cracked skull. It was more the internal bleeding, where urinating blood and all that stuff that lasted for days and days after my kidneys were messed up. But and then the dust, of course. When I got to the hospital, when the guy got me there, it was in an outdoor triage. It was set up there. This is a hospital expecting to get thousands of people, and they had me and a few other people outside where they were treating us. And that's when, closer to 10 o'clock, when the second tower collapsed. And that debris cloud went right toward the Brooklyn Bridge. And that if you follow the debris cloud from that second tower, which is the first one that collapsed, and that one, I was out really where NYU downtown Beekman is right by the Brooklyn Bridge. So that thing came without any warning. My eyes were caked. I couldn't see for a few minutes, thinking I was blind. I just had the LASIK surgery done like 2 months earlier or something like that. And I was blind. And that was the scariest part of the whole morning, was that because I didn't process terrorists hit the World Trade Center with planes. I mean, that was the furthest thing from my mind. Nobody explained or connected the dots on what was happening. I heard something about more planes coming, but I didn't know what that meant. I thought that was people coming to help. I didn't know what that was. Like, oh, that's a good thing. More planes, good. Let's go help. I didn't know it meant terrorist planes going into the Pentagon or so. It was a horrific experience. I mean, post-traumatic stress disorder is something that comes up, and definitely experienced a lot of that. But through that horrific experience, I remember meeting folks from Oklahoma City, the bombing from 6 years earlier. Met them when I got out of the hospital, and I was actually able to get some support services for myself. They had a peer, I forget what it was, peer something, peer 39, or I can't remember what peer, helped 9/11 folks, and met these Oklahoma City people that were down there, had driven up to New York and helped out. And that was the philanthropy part of them just doing something like that, just saying, hey, we got to help these 9/11 people. We're getting in a car and we're driving up there. Probably didn't even know where they were staying. They just wanted to help. And that was a pretty cool, I don't know how many hours it takes from Oklahoma City to New York City, but it had to be a lot to get up there and just pack up and be there, help us, and just give us a hug and say, we're here for you. And I felt so guilty knowing that when their event happened, remember where I was, I saw it on TV like anybody else. Oh, I'm horrified, but then went back to my business, and I didn't really have the impact of what somebody going through a terrorism event was until I went through it. So that started me on the journey. I've met this wonderful friend of mine for the last almost 20 years, Anthony Gardner, who lost his brother, Harvey, in the World Trade Center. And I had also connected to Cantor Fitzgerald, who had offered me a job to work for them right before 9/11. And I didn't take that job. I had two offers, an offer and a counter offer, which I accepted both times. So miraculously, I had those offer letters. I look at them every once in a while. I save all that stuff because I'm a pack rat, but I look back at it to say how life is so funny, how twists and turns can save a life. And I have a guy called my godfather, Hal Gross, who was my boss at Credit Suisse. First job, I actually did good at where they liked me, and I wasn't cut like it was in football or whatever. But he kept me at Credit Suisse, and I'm still very close with him and his family. 20 years later, and he was an angel, And I think without him, and so the Cantor family responded and helped me. Although I never worked for them, they reached out and got me in their support groups, and I've been very active. One of the things I do every year is I help out Cantor Fitzgerald on 9/11 with their charity day. Help out my organization. We bring celebrities to the trading floor, and it's really cool. You get all these rock stars, Shaquille O'Neal, and I get Johnny Damon and all these cool guys. We had Rudy Giuliani for a number of years, and Alex Rodriguez. He didn't bring J-Lo, but Alex Rodriguez would come out, and but it was really cool. And they do trades on the floor, not real trading, and we raise money. And Cantor donates all of their funds on 9/11, all the revenue. It's usually like $12 million every year, and it gets split to all the charities that participate. So it's like seeing all these cool rock stars all taking a tragic day of 9/11 for me and turning it into something positive. And Jim Leyritz, I can't say enough good things about Yankee legend Jim Leyritz, who had his own misfortune of an event in 2007, but he's taken the philanthropy path of doing good things for people. And Jimmy was our number one 9/11 charity ambassador, and every year flies from California, there with the families, and just there to support what we're doing and go out on the trading floor, raise some money, doesn't ask for anything. And it's amazing to see people like that. I'm attracted to people like that, to work with people like that, that will give up their time and their energies to help others. And that inspired me. So that Cantor Fitzgerald has been a very big part of my life. I've never worked for them, never gotten a paycheck from them, but I will always serve what they're doing with their Cantor Relief Fund. It's been a big part of my life and started me on the path. And that 9/11 group and Cantor, all that work started me. And then as I got into that 9/11 charity group, because I love sports, like we said, Kayla, right? I mean, sports is a big part of my life. Never really gave it up. I started to do stuff with the Yankees. I met a few of them in Tampa when I was down there. They had moved from Fort Lauderdale to Tampa, so I made some connections there. Met a wonderful guy named Ray Negron, and Ray Negron is to me is a Hall of Famer in his own right. Where Ray was a bat boy for the Yankees, but his story was he was doing graffiti at Yankee Stadium in 1973 when Steinbrenner just bought the team. Ray was caught with a number of his friends doing the graffiti, and Steinbrenner put them in a little holding pen down at the stadium. And I didn't even know they had those kind of things where you get locked up in a little holding pen. And Steinbrenner instead said, Ray, you're our bat boy tonight for the Yankees. This is in 1973. True story. And got an opportunity. And what Ray did with that one opportunity was turn his life around and also gave back. And besides being an assistant, he had every role with the Yankees and still is a consultant to the community. And Ray and I have done a lot of great stuff with Hank Steinbrenner's, Hank Shank's organization and helping out. And the Yankees, now I live my dream. I'm now working with the Yankees. Like, how cool is that? I go from these NFL guys, and now I'm doing what I wanted to do when I was a 7-year-old kid playing baseball in Prospect Park. I'm now around my Yankee legends, Bucky Dent and Ron Guidry. I mean, I was in awe of these guys. and Chris Chambliss, Roy White, and then did a couple of fantasy camps, and then started playing competitively with these guys in tournaments. And I'm going to lead up to this story, but I've met this wonderful man named Brian Doyle, 1978 World Series hero, and Brian, incredible in his own right. And Brian had the opportunity. Well, he has Parkinson's, and Brian Doyle. We all wanted to 6 years ago. It was they do an old timers day for the old time Yankees, right? They get out there like the Mickey Mantles back in the day. This goes on every year. The Yankees do a wonderful old timers day weekend. I've always been a great part of it. I go with the Billy Martin's widow. I go with Kay Mercer, who was Bobby Mercer's family. I go. I'm part of it like almost every year. But this year we decided to do something special. Do the Old Timers Day game in the Bronx, and then go to Scranton, their AAA affiliate, and do a special Old Timers Day with all the same guys, and do it in Scranton and raise money for the Brian Doyle and give it back to the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's and some other organizations in Brian's name. And I just figured, hey, I'm Brian's friend. I'm going to be there to support him. But I said, maybe I'll bring my uniform. Like what if these old guys, they're playing in the Bronx, they're playing the next day. And Roy White and a couple of guys would tease me, yeah, bring a uniform, Mike. I figured nothing's going to happen out of this, right? Maybe I'll pinch run if they're unlucky in the later innings. So I get to there, and it's Father's Day. Think about that. My girls, I got my, Kelly is now 18 and Jen is 16. But back then, this was like when they were 12 and 10, and they never really seen Daddy play baseball. And we came from the Bronx and drove up there, and man, I got in the locker room thinking I was just going to be part of a pregame ceremony, and they handed me uniform, number 24. And I'm like, I'm not Ricky Henderson, I'm Mike Dempsey. But Mike Dempsey got to get out on the field that day. I was like the only non-legend, and anybody watching the game is probably still like, who the heck was that guy out there? Because I was there up there, and I was like signing autographs and taking selfies with kids, and I was nervous. I'm like, I'm actually gonna. So I just think I'm gonna pinch run. I was ready. I'm not that fast, but an old timers day, you don't have to be fast to actually pinch run, right? So I'm figuring I'd get out there in the field. But so first inning, Mickey Rivers, Mick the Quick gets up. He gets a hit. He calls me up there, and it's all on video. It's televised. And I get in the game. I pinch run for Mickey Rivers. How cool was that, right? So I'm good. I'm like, I sit on the bench. I'm like, I can watch the game with Reggie Jackson, Joe Pepitone, Don Larson threw a perfect game. I'm just enjoying the moment. Well, second inning, Gene Stick Michael, a legend who was the manager, player, everything. He was everything for the Yankees. He's Mr. Yankee. He deserves a plaque in the stadium for all he's done for the organization. Yeah, Gene Stick was about 75 at the time, and he looked at Big Jeff Nelson, 6'8", four-time World Series champ. And I think Stick looked at Nelly and said, I'm not batting against this big dude. So he just looked at me in the dugout as a wait for him. It's like, Mike, grab a bat. And I'm in the dugout like, what? I don't even have my batting gloves. I don't have a bat with me. So I look in the bat rack. There's Reggie Jackson's bat and there's Mickey Rivers. And Reggie's bat was at least heavy enough that I can really use it. Mickey's was too thin for me. So I grab Reggie's bat. He gives me the dirtiest look, like, you just took my bat. But I don't have time to react. It's like I grab the bat. I'm using Reggie's bat. I go up the home plate. And in the video I think I shared with you, you see a televised game. I don't have a helmet on. I don't know what I'm thinking because I'm just reacting to they're waiting for me at home plate. Get to the plate. And I'm like, oh, Jeff Nelson. Ah, man, you could have given me like Luis Tiant, somebody could lob the ball to you, but they got to give me Jeff Nelson. I want time to get nervous. I fouled up the first two pitches because, it may look slow to some people, but for guys like me throwing 70, 75, and Nelly will tell you he can't get over the plate unless he's going to zip it in there. And I'm late on the first two. I fouled off. I'm like, okay, respectable. I made contact. I'm not going to strike out, but maybe I will, but at least I made contact. And I took two pitches, and then that last pitch, that 2-2 count, and I'm like, don't throw me that backdoor slider. And he threw me one right down low, and I went down and got it. And I'll tell you, when I hit it, I thought it was a home run. It's Father's Day. I said, I just hit it. I got all of it for me. But it was a nice hit. Make the long story short, the nice hit landed in center field, and, I mean, nothing can ever – I watched that video 10 times a day still. Whenever I'm having a sad moment or I need a little pickup, I watch that little 10-second clip, and I'm like, I was 1 for 1 in my major league career. So I'm going to play right field, and I played so deep in right field because I didn't want anything hit over my head. So nervous. It was like the funniest thing. Roy White's telling me, Mike, you don't have to play 400 feet away from me. Like, we're not going to hit it that far, but made one put out in the game. But it was a cool. I was a Yankee for a day. It wasn't fantasy camp. It wasn't like I paid $5,000 to put on the pinstripes. I was actually one of the guys for a day, and I was becoming part of the family. And I think when I go back to Old Timers Day, we all laugh at that whole experience. But Ray Negron made that happen for me, and Brian Doyle, and I'm always indebted to them for letting that happen. That moment was the coolest thing. And my girls being there, seeing that, although they were on their phones, the truth of the matter is, I mean, like I said, I'm authentic, but the girls were, they were on their phones, and they didn't even see me get the hit, you know. When I said later, did you see Daddy get the hit? They're like, huh, what hit? What the heck was that? But I played the video for them 100,000 times over the years. So they see, they'll see it every day, because girls, remember when Daddy got that hit? Like, yeah, we know Daddy. So, but that was a really cool, that was a recognition, I think, of all the power of sports, right? I mean, all these connections I made, and Brian Doyle and Ray Negron, and just happened to be, and went raising money for charity. So it wasn't like we were doing it for just to make money. I mean, we were making money for a great cause, and I've been privileged to be around Michael J. Fox many times over the years, and how cool when sports and philanthropy can come together at the same time doing something great, you know. And that's what I always love about the stuff I do, and being around my heroes, but we're all doing it for a good cause. Joe Namath. I mean, I'm in awe around Joe all the time, and do a lot of work with Coach Dick at Gridiron Greats. I've been to all his events, and, you know, I'm very aware of what has happened with concussions. You know, I had a number of them myself, and on a 9/11, I had a pretty traumatic head injury, and I had some issues. You know, I had a lot of bad headaches that have happened. And I can sympathize with a lot of guys who played the game, whether you played 1 year, you played 10 years, or 15 years. The devastating effects of football. That's why Chris Nowinski, with what he does with his Concussion Legacy Foundation, is amazing work, and helping prevent future bad injuries, and seeing a lot of these guys that end up, as you know, like vegetables after all they've done for the game, and the game doesn't repay them. And it's really unfortunate. So I try to connect with charities that have a purpose that I can really connect with. I mean, for me, I can't just individually go to a random charity without a personal connection or hook to it. And that's kind of what I'm proud to be served the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame on their advisory board. I do a lot of stuff with the Yankees. I'm always dying to get involved in anything Yankees related, but I try to more stick to the philanthropy when we're raising money to help kids. I like to get back. I'm at the age now where it's all about the kids and getting the next generation. So Johnny Damon Foundation, Johnny's one of my best friends, as you know, and Johnny does a lot of great stuff in Central Florida, helping children and charities. And I'm getting a lot more involved in what he's doing, helping raise money for a dolphin rehabilitation project we're doing in South Florida, through connection I made through my friend Brett Raymer and some others, and help save these wounded dolphins and provide them a facility to rehabilitate. And Johnny Damon and I just spent last weekend in Florida, swimming with the dolphins. And I'll get to my daughter later with the special needs stuff that has really trying to really get more involved in the special needs philanthropy in the community to really help my daughter who's on the Asperger's spectrum. So it's been a journey, but learning how philanthropy can help so many people, the impact of what you do. You don't see it all the time, but you gotta sometimes look. George Steinbrenner once said, I was in the room with Ray Negron when he said it, you're looking for a pat on the back, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. It's really this stuff. And Steinbrenner himself did so much work in Tampa. Most people in your part of the country, Kayla, are going to say, oh, the evil boss, you know, and Milwaukee, I'm sure, hated him like anybody. Like, look, he was a great owner. He did a lot for his team, but the charity work he did in Tampa, Florida is unparalleled. They have hospital wings named for him. And the guy did so much, but he never wanted to get publicized for that. He did a charity event every year where Randy Macho Man Savage would come every year, and wrestlers to support. It was a thing for the Boys and Girls Club, and he wanted to give the Boys and Girls Club so much money, write checks. And that's a side of George that I got to see. And George never wanted that publicized. So people will always think of him as the evil boss that had this Yankee dynasty, but he really was one of the nicest. And just like his son Hank, Hank was the same way. Hank passed away last year, and Hank did so much to help underprivileged kids get a chance to play baseball in the Bronx and Connecticut. And those stories will hopefully be told, but they never look for a pat in the back. And I don't need the pat in the back either. I'm so, this stage, I feel like just doing what I do and carrying the my journey, and and I want to jump ahead to what happened on 2017, because now you may be even nervous being on a podcast with me, because I feel like I attract horrific events, but I happen to be in Las Vegas on the weekend of that shooting, and backstory was, it was a crazy week of Mike Dempsey traveling from event to event. I was at Cal Ripken's event earlier in the week in Baltimore for his foundation, and I think I did something with Jonathan Ogden, football player, and then I said, well, I got to get to Vegas because my friend Brett Raymer was on a very popular TV show called Tanked, Animal Planet, 15 seasons, Brooklyn guy, we grew up together, and I was always he did Tanks for my friend Johnny Damon, Chris Jericho, and I'm like, I got to get on this show because my kids got to see Dad on TV. And he was going to get engaged to his longtime girlfriend at the time on the show that weekend. And we had to be there Saturday. I remember flying out early from after Ripken's event, and I was so tired. I'm like, I got to keep going because I have that event. And then on Monday, I'm going to Scott Baio, my good friend Scott Baio, Chachi, Happy Days. He does a great event called the Bailey Baio Angel Foundation for his little girl, and I didn't want to miss that. So I'm really Vegas as a pit stop in between to get to hang with Chachi, and all the TV stars. That's where you get Todd Bridges, all these cool people that come out. So I was just there and that weekend I saw a lot of my old friends. I did this show with Brett, and then Mandalay Bay. It was that's where I stay. I still stay there. I was there a few weekends ago. That's my hotel of choice. I love Mandalay Bay, and that evening I met up with a friend of mine, grew up with him, and we were at this bar inside the hotel in Mandalay Bay called the Candy Eye Bar. I think it's called the Eye Candy. And we're just having drinks, and I'm like, well, I got to get to bed because I got to get up at 6 a.m. to get my 8 a.m. flight to LA. So Stevie, good seeing you, buddy. And then I couldn't tell where the tram was from. Mandalay Bay, there's a tram that goes to Excalibur, which is like next door. I don't know about you. When you're in these hotels, I don't know. I don't do trams. I don't know where. So I remember looking, Stevie, I think it's there, but I found the Mandalay Bay shops where Pete Rose signs his autographs. I've seen that, but I don't know where this tram is. So just follow me outside. It's like 10 o'clock at night. Follow me, get to Las Vegas Boulevard. We'll kind of cut over. You'll get there. I didn't know it was a country music concert. And, I don't follow country music, still don't. I'm sorry to say that. I'm a Bruce Springsteen kind of guy, Tom Petty, who actually passed the next day. It was so weird that Petty died the next day after the Vegas shooting. I remember being in a golf cart at Scott Baio's event, hearing that. But, that's not I had no idea what Route 91, I'm like, where the heck is Route 91? That's not in Vegas, is it? So I had no idea what was going on. You couldn't hear it, honestly, from the Mandalay Bay. I mean, the truth of the matter is, it was that shooter, as how he fired those rounds. It's a pretty good distance. And I know the hockey game was going on earlier. I remember the traffic that was going on with the Vegas Golden Knights. I didn't even know Vegas had a hockey team. So I remember thinking, that's weird. Vegas got a hockey team? Man, I've been missing out on something here. So really went from that. I'm there that night, outside, and man, we're by the fountains. When you go to Mandalay Bay, they have the fountains outside right by that area, the water. And you hear the water, but then you hear pop, pop, pop. And I'm like, it sounded like fireworks the first round, thinking it was something. And then, we just stopped. I'm like, okay, where's the fire? I'm looking up to see, okay, fireworks? Like, no idea what's going on there. The second round, that's when, and this is my own recollection. I mean, you could hear 100 stories of people that were there the night. My story is my story of what I heard. But the second round was like, literally like right over my head, like loud. And then I never heard gunshots. I mean, funny guy growing up in Brooklyn, never hearing gunshots, but believe it or not, never heard gunshots. My dad's a cop, never heard gunfire before until that night. That thing was that second round. And I heard somebody yell sniper. And I'm like, sniper? It's the same thing like 9/11. When you're looking up at the World Trade Center, I'm under it. I can't see what's going on. I don't know where shots are coming from. There's a bunch of hotels in the strip. You don't know where it's coming from. So we started to run back inside, and the crazy thing, and I'll tell the story the day I die, is like that. When we got back in there, it was like gambling. People or nothing. Nobody was reacting to what was going on outside. I don't know what the response time or what the security, that will have to be unsealed in the investigation or records, because there was like, I was telling the guy, look, there's shots outside, and the guy looked at me like, really, like, go. I couldn't get anybody's attention, but it was like a scene out of a movie where about a few minutes later, as me and Stevie started walking back, and we're in the casino area on the floor. It was like, then it got real. You could see people were like, oh, and that's when things started to get very real. And that point, I remember going toward the elevator, where the shops are. It's kind of like a candy shop or coffee shop right there by the elevators, and passing that, trying to get to what floor. And I'm on the same elevator bank as where the shooting. I didn't know that. I didn't know the shooter was in the Mandalay Bay. So I get in the elevator with like three of the people, and I remember as the elevator doors were closing, I hear screams, like deafening screams, like something out of a horror movie. And I'm thinking, oh my God, the shooter's here in the hotel. Like, I'm like, how did this happen? That was the fear, panic moment for me. And the elevator door, it was like a Halloween movie, like Michael Myers. When you're as the elevator doors are closing, the doors open, and I'm like, I'm dead. That shooter's right there. Now, that was the security guy getting us off the elevator. That's what was happening. The security guys get us off the elevator to clear. Now I understand why. They were staging to try to find out what was going on there. But that was a part that panicked me. And now, I'm in lockdown. I'm in the House of Blues. And I love Cajun food, but they didn't feed. I don't know where that food was. I didn't get any gumbo, no jambalaya, but I was holed up in the House of Blues in the Mandalay Bay while this stuff is going on. And you got SWAT teams that night coming in there. And I got my conspiracy buddy friend from high school who's texting me, telling me it's a mass coordinated shooting. They're shooting people in all the hotels. And this is what social media does to you. See, 9/11, we had no social media. 20 years later or whatever, you got the social media people making things out of nothing. So now I'm like, oh my God, how do I get? And I'd be honest, I mean, at the time you're thinking, okay, I got that flight 8 a.m. How do I get out of here? Catch that flight out to LA so I can golf with. And how was I going to play golf the next day after going through what I've been through? No way. So let's just say that I didn't get I got to LA the next day, but I got to hang out on a golf cart and drink some beer. I didn't play any golf because I was pretty traumatized from what had happened. But that morning, I remember trying to leave, and they're like, "You're not leaving. Like, this is an investigation scene." I told the guy, I said, "Look, my dad's a cop. I need to get home. My daughter's sick." I made any story, And the crazy part, which would make your viewers laugh, is they're looking for a second shooter. All the stuff's going on. And Mike Dempsey gets like a police escort. Now, Mandalay Bay is only 1.5 miles from the airport. I don't kid you. Like, I probably could have walked there, but somehow the police guy, it was so cool. And they gave me sort of like an escort to the airport so I could make my flight on time. I'll always remember that, the look of people at the airport, because everyone knows what was going on and what had happened. And they must have thought, who the heck is this guy? But I got a police escort to go literally like 2 miles to McCarran Airport, and somehow made that 8 a.m. flight. Ended up in Los Angeles, and but the good with that, then it hit me. Wait, 9/11 in Vegas. I think I'm the only person that has that story. And 5 days later, if you Google my name right now and you see Mike Dempsey Las Vegas, you can see all those news stories. Fox News, and was doing an event with Johnny Bench, like big show. And with Johnny Bench, he had Fox News with him, and I was telling him my story, and he was blown away. And Fox News covered it, and all of a sudden I'm front page news for like a week, and it was crazy. But then I said, you know what? Let me leverage that fame. That's not how you want to be famous from something like that, but try to do some good. So I remember getting the GoFundMe link for the Vegas Victims Fund out there, and started to work. And a lot of my 9/11 group that we do is really doing peer support events to help communities. Oklahoma City and our 9/11 every year we do a peer support event. We go to Oklahoma City, April 19th weekend, and they come to New York in 9/11. So I kind of said, we got to bridge the gaps. Now we got more communities that have been impacted by terrorism, Columbine. You know, you got all these communities that have had these kind of events, and we got to bring people together. So I started to work on that. And after the Parkland shooting, of course, I had a connection. I feel like I got a connection to all these events. And my college football teammate had two kids who were survivors in Sandy Hook. I got a good friend of mine that Rebecca and Jeff, that their kids were in Parkland. So I had a connection to the Parkland shooting. So it was kind of weird how all these kind of coincidences happen, but they happen for a reason, right? I'm a connector. So I think I was able to, so I brought a bunch of groups, started February 2019, about 2 years ago. We did a peer support group in Parkland to bring all the different communities together. It was Vegas, 9/11, Boston Marathon, and Columbine, all these different communities. We all pitched in to go down there to help the kids, the survivors. It's the families, one thing of the tragic victims. And having Fred Gutenberg, as a matter of fact, on my own show, the dad show I do with my daughter, this Monday. So Fred's story, losing his daughter Jamie, and what he's been through, and been such a great advocate for gun control. Incredible. But I also always wanted to reach the survivors, the kids that you don't hear about, that went through the school shooting and have to go back to the same school. That was important for them to hear from us, that there's no closure. Like, stuff you go through, PTSD, it remains. You just deal with it. So that's kind of where I was proud of that event, putting that together. And that's been, so I look at resiliency as something that, and as I started to work, Jerry Cooney, we're going to get to the big boxing, and everyone wants to hear the Mickey Ward story and all that stuff. And I've been a pleasure to know Mickey Ward all these years and work with Jerry Cooney on a great charity called YCS, Youth Consultation Services. It's in New Jersey. They help underprivileged, at-risk children and kids on the spectrum. They do amazing work, a state agency that just does phenomenal work. And I've been privileged to know Jerry and for many years. And Larry Holmes, I go to his events every year. Larry and Jerry, 40 years ago, next year is the fight of the century. Jerry and Larry, and they're best buddies. How cool is that? Two guys that slugged it out in the ring. Just like Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti trilogy. The best trilogy of all time in my book is, I'm wearing a shirt here, Irish Mickey Ward. And just as a plug, if you go to www.box2burn, the number 2 burn, gym.com. You can look at the Mickey Ward shop, and he's got great stuff here. He's got a cool hoodie that I have here. I wear Mickey stuff all the time. The Irish guys, we hang together. But Mickey does a lot of great work with his Mickey Ward charities, and I got him involved in this idea that came up with, hey, fight night, Jerry Cooney. We do a fight night every year. Why not Dempsey and Cooney raise money? And sometimes was that Thunder Lips with Rocky 3, and after the boxing match or the wrestling match, he throws him around. He says, and Rocky says to Thunder Lips, yeah, sometimes charity hurts. Well, charity may hurt, but you know what? Getting in the ring with a legend, but the journey of it is not just a fight, just me losing 36 pounds and putting the gloves on and getting in the ring and training with Antonio Tarver, which I looked on Facebook today, it was a year ago. Today, I was down in Florida with Antonio Tarver, the Magic Man, training right when the pandemic started, and been training with Mickey, been up to Lowell, Massachusetts. There's the movie The Fighter, still lives there, and Mickey is a tremendous guy. And we're looking at this fight night, and Johnny Damon is going to be in my corner. I don't know what Johnny's going to do. He might be a stunt double if I need a stunt double, but I haven't figured out his role, what he's going to do. But everyone's got it. But everyone needs a Mickey. Rocky had Mickey. I got Mickey, right? Rocky had Mickey in his corner. I got Mickey Ward. What a better guy to have. And we have Tracy Morgan. Got to have a comedian there to make somebody laugh. I don't know what Tracy Morgan's going to do in that fight other than to maybe distract Jerry. O.J. Anderson, we have Iran Barkley, Vinny Paz, legends, boxing legends, Tim Witherspoon, Doc Gooden, guys from The Sopranos. They all come out for this fight night to raise money for a great cause and a journey going through the pandemic. Let me look at this last year. This fight concept started in late 2019. I was at an event with Jerry, and it was Mark Wahlberg's foundation, and I was with Jimmy Wahlberg and a few of his brothers, and we came up with the idea, and it started early 2020, and here we are in March of 2021, and we still haven't had the fight because New Jersey W Hotel wouldn't allow it, pandemic and all this stuff going on. And it's so we're going to have it in June 5th. It was going to be the date still announced, but it's not happening. Unfortunately, and that's not happening. I wish it was, but and then we're looking at maybe October because obviously the vaccinations. But Jerry just had surgery in his rotator cuff. Although I said, Jerry, you know, you got a bum shoulder, rotator cuff. Now we should fight. Now I have a chance to beat you. Now this is the time when I want to get in a ring with you. I don't want you full strength to get in there with. I call myself Baby Jack. You know, Baby Jack has to have a. But it's all for fun. You know, this is an exhibition. I like to say we're gonna try to knock each other out, but in a real, if you know the sport, truth of the matter is these guys are professionals. Just like wrestling, I tried wrestling at one time. That's a real thing. I don't care stage or not. These guys are taking real bumps. So all the professional wrestlers I'm friends with, all my respect goes out to these guys because those bumps these guys take, they're real and they hurt because I've taken those bumps. So sports, you know, I don't care stage or not, exhibition. I'm gonna take a pounding, but for a good cause that night, raise money. And you know, there's a lot of cool. Look, this year in the 20th anniversary of 9/11, very important to my charity. We're doing a lot of fundraising to bring our education program. We teach 9/11 in schools around the country. We want to get that out to more schools and promote what we're doing, our 20th anniversary peer support events, especially. So that's a very particular cause for me and Johnny Damon's foundation, Jerry, Mickey Ward, all these guys. I want to connect them all so we all help each other because, you know, philanthropy, you know what, Kayla, it's all about reciprocation. And, you know, we all got to help each other. And when I go to an event, you know, some people will help me out. And that's how these events usually work. You know, you support their event. I mean, Grant Fuhrer, I'll be at his event next month, and Grant Fuhrer always goes to Johnny Damon's event. He goes to everybody's event. And we got such a bunch of guys coming out to support Grant Fuhrer, his first celebrity golf outing next month in Palm Springs. Wayne Gretzky, Ken Griffey Jr., and, you know, Grant's a 5-time Stanley Cup winner, Hall of Famer. But Grant has always supported everybody over the years. He's raising money for Betty Ford's Hazleton Center and a good cause. And everyone is amazing. He didn't have to ask. Everybody wants to come. It's like, just let us know how to book our flights. We're there. It's reciprocation. If you do that for people, they will always help you. And bring in Johnny Damon and all these guys, Mickey Ward, Jerry Cooney together. We're all having a good time. And I might be the guy taking a nap in the ring, like Jerry says, on I think it's January 8th. So I have a little time before the nap in the ring. I'm kidding. But the idea is to put on a good show. You know, I've been working out, getting in great shape, and hopefully make it look believable. You know, like Apollo Creed. Look, Carl Weathers, I've got to be friends with Carl Weathers. And I'll tell you what, Carl Weathers made a believable performance as Apollo Creed. You would think he was a real boxer because he did have boxing experience. He sparred with Muhammad Ali, some great fighters. He wasn't just an actor. So it was believable when you see Carl Weathers in the ring. And I think that's why Antonio Tarver did such a good job as Mason Dixon and Rocky Balboa, because he's a real boxer. So I know to make it look like a cool fight, I got to bring my A game. And this is Johnny Damon's drink I have right here, which we are branding. And that's our A game. We're putting this drink together. It's like my Gatorade of choice, and it helps me recover from these tough workouts. And, you know, we're going to do a great job I'm going to hopefully bring my A game to Jerry Cooney fight night, and Jerry's behind it, and we're just gonna have a great time. 40th anniversary of Cooney Holmes and 20th anniversary of Mickey Ward, our tour gaddy. So, like, you know, it's something for the ages to have these guys involved in it, and we want to just help inspire others, and that's what I try to tell my story. Like I said, one thing about me is I'm authentic. Like me or don't like me, I'm authentic, and I try to use my story to show resiliency. I've been knocked down a lot of times in life. And, you know, as I tell people, you'll hear about the guys who played 15, 20 years in the NFL, whatever. I try to show my story to say it doesn't usually happen that way, right? And it's what you do after the game. Like you said, like your show after the locker room, what do you have? And you gotta find your way. And I found it through philanthropy. Came by accident. The events happened to me. 9/11, I didn't ask for 9/11. I didn't ask for Las Vegas, but these events hit me, but I had to hit back with something to put my efforts into, call it survivor guilt, call it whatever, but I needed to help others. I couldn't sit home and just, not my style. I'm a type A personality. I got to be doing something athletically or get in the ring, or play baseball. I mean, that's what I've been doing. Is sports to me is a way to look. I'm a kid. I'm always going to be a kid till, and that kid in me is gonna look. I played baseball at a very competitive level after taking 18 years off, and I got to play from the last 10 years. This summer, Field of Dreams. You're pretty close to, not too far from where I'm going to be in Iowa, August 12th, 13th, right before I turn the big 5-0. Yankees playing the White Sox, and then this special game, they finally going to have it this year. And I'm bringing my dad, and we're going to have that Kevin Costner catch. And I got the old timers day moment. I've got some great moments in the baseball field, but I want the last memory to be me and my dad having that catch. And I think Ron Guidry's going to be there. I know my trainer, Paco Martin, played for the White Sox. He's going to be there with his son. He trained me maybe into a baseball player, a believable baseball player. And to have that is priceless, to have that memory, the last memory. I'm not going to unretire. That's it for me. I'm not going to be playing baseball. I'm going to be doing golf full time after baseball and boxing is done. And unless there's a football league that'll bring back an old guy like me to play one more down, I don't think that's going to happen. So that's going to be it. But I've been pleased to bring everything I had. And look, I've had broken wrists. I mean, you should see metal plates, shoulder. My knee surgeries, I've broken everything, and I'm a broken down guy, but I'm still competing. I'm out there at my highest level. I've been doing yoga with Diamond Dallas Page, a wrestler, to get me flexible enough to do the things I need to do in the ring, So that's what I'm excited about, is bringing my A game and leaving it all there. And when I'm able to look back at the memories, I know I made an impact. That's what Jackie Robinson's message was. It was the impact, the legacy you bring on people, right? And that's what hopefully the good work I do will kind of last the test of time, right? That's what I hope to achieve is people I've touched, whether it's one person, 100 people, 1,000 people. That'll be on my gravestone, not like who I work for, what I did. It's all those lives that I changed or helped to change. That's what I want out of life.
I love it. I think your message is so inspiring. You have your hands literally in so many good works. Mike, I do want to ask you to partner with me.
Okay.
My charity of choice, as you know, is Special Olympics, and I ask every guest to make an autograph donation to Special Olympics for their cause. Mike, can we count on you?
Absolutely. And my daughter Kelly's on the spectrum, as I said earlier, and I do a lot of work with her with autism awareness. I support that entirely. Special Olympics, Ric Flair's daughter, Ashley, she goes by Charlotte Flair. I've done some work with her, and Paul White, who's a wrestler called The Big Show. They've done a lot. The WWE has done a tremendous amount of work over the years with Special Olympics. And so I support that entirely through my daughter and her cheerleading. She's doing tomorrow. She's cheerleading on a team, on a regular team. She was on a special needs team. She's on a regular team. She's showing that kids with disabilities have special abilities and they can achieve a lot. And I want to give her the inspiration to she could be a world's level cheerleader. And I want her to always fulfill her goals. And then when she gets knocked down and you get one obstacle, you get back up and you get there. And she's had the same challenges. I mean, you could do a whole show on her journey with cheerleading, where she started with no real skills, and she's at a very high level right now, and she's worked hard and determined. And that's what I want to teach her, is that resiliency and kind of never letting go of your dream.
And, speaking of that, let's actually take a moment, if you don't mind, and shout out your podcast and the message that you're reaching with your show. Do you mind?
Absolutely. Well, Dads and Daughters Show, if you find it on Facebook, I do put it on YouTube, but I want to get it on Spotify. But we've done about 20 episodes so far. And so it's Dads and the N symbol and Daughters Show. And we have guests on every week that span sports, obviously, the Johnny Damons, the Nick Swishers, the Jim Laritz's, baseball legends. We're going to have Joe Namath on next month. We have some pretty cool, but it's really the inspiring stories, which I like the most, are the situation where you have a kid with Down syndrome that opens up a coffee shop or an ice cream shop, or a gentleman I met Super Bowl week, Kayla, at the event you were at, that zoo event we were at. He has Tourette's. Had him on my show last week, and his message and his awareness and his foundation. Those are the cool stories, which I think I want to connect. And the special needs community has to be brought together And I'm doing that, trying to bring all these different connections together to helping a kid, Ben, who's on the autism spectrum. He's an Eagles fan, and he wants his dream is to work for the NFL, and I want to get him there. So I'm going to make those connections to get him there. He's going to an event with me and Ron Jaworski in June, and I'm going to make those connections to make him fulfill his dreams. So that's what it's all about. Is my show is all about doing that, achieving your dreams. That dad-daughter bond, yeah, it's special, and that's a backdrop to our show. My girls, and there's a lot of authentic. There's nothing scripted with us, and you can tell by the way I talk. We just go at it and have a good dad-daughter. Don't bust my chops. But that's what it's all about. It's real. That's how dads and daughters are. But we try to bring a platform to show that kids with special needs can achieve some pretty remarkable things out there. So, but yeah, it's been a great. I never did a podcast. I'm learning what you're doing, and I want to continue to at least inspire and kind of provide and spread the message of good deeds out there. And if you're always a helper, you got to find your helpers, and that's what I've done. And Sir Fred Gutenberg, who I'm having on my show Monday, he had to find his helpers. He lost his brother through 9/11 illness, and he lost his daughter in the bombing and in the shooting. And Fred has found a journey and he's found his helpers, and he's doing some great work out there. We all have that in us, and we got to find that. You got to reach down deep down, and that's what Johnny Damon's Foundation is all about, showing and really working hard to provide something. And Johnny, through his work with Wounded Warrior, all the great stuff he's done over the years, which he doesn't get the full credit for. Just amazing work. He's the first person that will always volunteer to go to a charity event to help anybody because of who he and his wife Michelle are. And people like Johnny Damon, Jim Laird, those are people that you can count on. When I have to call him for a favor for Kelly, he's there. That's true friendship, and that's true selflessness. So I like to work with the Johnny Damons of the world, the Jim Lairds of the world, and find those people out there, because there's a lot of them out there. You got to find them. And I've met some great people out there, and I'm blessed. Brian Doyle, God, New York Yankees World Series legend, had him on post on my wall, and now I got to play in a game. I got to play Brian Doyle Day and get a hit off Jeff Nelson. How cool was that memory that I was a Yankee for a day? So I'll always take those memories with me and continue to get new memories as the next number of years, as we get out of the pandemic world and get back to our events again, which I'm so excited about. Tampa was good, but we missed out on the real Super Bowl experience, admitted, right? You were probably like, wow, this is weird. Radio Row is empty, but I can't wait to Los Angeles next year. And through the NFL Alumni Charities they have blessed me with a lot of great stuff over the years. I've given back to the NFL Alumni Charities for supporting me, for a guy who barely had a cup of coffee in the league. And for that, I'm always eternally grateful. We'll support anything they do, any chapter, and help them raise their A game as well. I got to plug that A game drink right here, but it's really great stuff. So it's, like I said, my journey with football, baseball, boxing. We'll see how long that lasts for. I think I'm retiring after this. I don't think, unless that Jake Paul looks kind of rough. I think I might get that Nate Robinson. He's the guy I want to actually box after Cooney. I think I could take Nate Robinson, but Jake Paul, Logan Paul, I don't know. They look kind of tough. So might have to go with Nate. So Nate, you're mine after Cooney. So, but it's just fun having a good time, and supporting good causes is what this life is all about.
Mike, I appreciate it so much. Hold that A game drink up one more time for all of our live stream people see it.
Yeah, it's called drinkagame.com, and we're going to have a distribution platform very soon. But this drink is really what I work out and use to revitalize myself, because at this age, boy, I do some hard workouts, and this stuff has really helped me the most, really keep myself hydrated, replenished. And I do yoga, I do cardio, I do the boxing workouts, and this thing really does so much to help me. So I can't wait to bring it on. Johnny Damon uses it, and we got a lot of guys, athletes, that are plugging this drink because it works. It's not just because we're endorsing it. We don't get paid for doing it. We want to endorse it because it actually helps us. So
love it. Well, Mike, we are just about out of time. Again, my name is Kayla Bradham, host of Legacy After the Locker Room. We are sponsored by Viget, the sports media social app, in partnership with the Sports Philanthropy Network, and powered by Stables Media. Our guest today, Mike Dempsey, legendary charity networker, athlete, doing so much to create hope and possibility through sports. I'm your host, Kayla Bradham, reminding you to live your legacy. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.